Tutti i passi che ho fatto nella mia vita mi hanno portato qui, ora. Every step I have taken in my life has led me here, now. This inscription belongs to the floor of platform 1 of one of Milan's train stations. It is the first glimpse of what the city will offer to tourists coming from the international airport. It's the start of a journey. And today, I would like to share with you my personal journey. It's a story about passion, technology, but it's mostly of all about people. My parents were economic migrants in Italy. They moved from another part of the country during the 70s, right in their 20s. They faced a huge amount of difficulties, but in the end, they managed to build a nice house in the suburbs and give 3 children all they could possibly ask for in their lives. I was tremendously lucky to be born in such a family. And you know, my father didn't have access to an extensive education, but he had something very valuable. He had curiosity. He has been always fascinated by science and technology, and he wanted his children to experience the most from those worlds. And that's why my older brother, was the first to benefit from his passion. And I was too, indirectly. At the age of 5, I used to sit on his lap, watching him, playing with games, doing stuff on the computers, and I felt safe, secure. This is me about 14 years ago when my father first came to my room and said, to my small room, and said, "Here's your laptop, learn." And that was the right idea because he thought that I would have needed that particular kind of literacy in the future. And he was right. He was right, and I spent countless days and hours searching in the net, feeding my curiosity, writing code, messing up with graphical tools, and my room suddenly was not small anymore. I was connected to a whole new world that I wanted to share with others. So, 14 years later, in a coffee shop, I was with some friends, and we were having some interesting conversation about, smart talks and a lot of stuff. And suddenly, a question popped up, and they asked me, "Hey, Andrea, do you know how Facebook makes money?" I was a little shocked, because many of them didn't know the answer to that question. Actually, it turned out that 46% people in the US don't know the answer to that question either. So I might think that also in Europe, the numbers could be very, very similar. So I was confused, and a quote from Carl Sagan, the US astronomer, came up in my mind. And he says, "We live in a society dependent on science and technology in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology." So I thought, maybe we should do something about it. And the thing is, do we need to know how an engine operates in order to drive a car? You might say no. So technologies aren't just the same thing. Technology aren't means of transportation. They are something else. They can deliver powerful messages, even emotions, informations, and even grant opportunities. I knew that. I've experienced that all these years. And what I wanted to do is try to do something about it. Have you ever felt like you had something so important to you, so important, that you had to do something about it, no matter what? I did. And what I wanted to do was to go directly in secondary schools, talking to students and teachers about startups, about smart cities, about net neutrality, and about a whole range of topics which are not actually mainstream in some cases, but will impact on our next future. So what I wanted to do was to spread a new culture of innovation based on awareness. But it wasn't easy, as most of things in life which are good and beautiful. And I had no experience, no sponsors, and no funding. So what I tried to do was to go directly to school principals and tell them about my ideas, what I wanted to do, but they just kept asking for qualifications. Have you got any degree? Have you got anything? But I didn't. I was just a 21-year-old boy which wanted to do something about the situation. He thought it was, important. And one day, after so many rejection, I was so frustrated, and my wonderful sister came up to me with this idea. Maybe you're not approaching the right people, she told me. And actually, that was a brilliant idea. I wasn't approaching the right people at all. So what I tried to do was to talk directly to students and teachers and just try to propose this thing and say, well, if you want, we can try. And actually, a few days later, a school called me, and I was there, and then we did it. We tried this experience. I gave this speech inside the school, and the results were very, very encouraging. And those students were in some ways inspired, and I felt wonderful. This is me doing one of my speech. You may see that my appearance right now is fairly similar to the in the picture, but the thing is that most of the students were actually really inspired by all of this. And after a year, I thought that something was missing. As you may recall, in the beginning of this talk, I've said that this is a story mostly about people. And there was one person, one very talented researcher, whose name is Viviana Premazzi, which is a researcher on immigration topics. We met in a conference, and she told me about her researches on the exercise of political rights by immigrants. So, a little background of immigrants in Italy. Italy has a huge amount of immigrants, and most of them come from Africa and from Eastern Europe. And the children of those immigrants do not get the citizenship, even if they are born in the Italian soil, on the Italian soil. So, it's an issue many young people complained about all over the country. And we had the knowledge of this association called 2G, Second Generation Association, which was made by all the sons and daughters of those immigrants. And what they tried to do was launch campaigns also on the internet, and they managed to meet the president of the Italian Republic. And now many political parties have stated that they will propose a project, a law project, for granting the citizenship to those boys and girls. Inspired by Second Generation Association, me and Viviana just couldn't wait for politics. We thought, why don't we share those experiences in schools? Why don't we do the same thing that we have done with all the topics of innovation? And we really wanted to do was to make sure that those children that were in schools with all the other Italian students had the chance to make their own voice heard through social media and through the internet. We had, again, very encouraging results. We reached with over 3,000 people. And the thing is, there was some examples of this inspiration inside of them, and I would like to tell you about this. And it's one of them who didn't thought at all about going to the university. He actually came to me and said, well, you know what? I want to go to university and I want to study engineering. Another one told me that he wanted to start a web radio inside his school. And a third one came to me with an interesting business plan for a startup. I felt wonderful, and I knew at the time that I was going in the right direction, that this was something we had to do all around schools in the country. So, how come we don't learn this at school? How come we do know how to operate computers, but we don't know anything about what's behind them? The commercial aspects, the law aspects, they're going to be a part of our imminent future, of the next future, but most of us don't know anything about them. And the thing is, independently from their social status and origin, those students now have access to a broad new kind of tool sets, to new tools. They can choose which tools they want to use and which no, and they can choose which battle for them are worth fighting for. And this is not just about the students, it's also about the teachers. What we're trying to do is raising awareness and increasing digital literacies because we think they're going to be essential in the future. So it all started when I was 5. 7 years later, I'm here. I'm sharing this message with you. And the thing is that all of this, all I've done, reminds me of when I was on my brother's lap, feeling secure and comfortable. And I think we will be pushing forward and try to make this project available to many more people and try to spread this new culture of innovation. Just the word I've experienced on my brother's lap. Thank you. Thank you.